way do you want it?
I want it that way.
Okay, let me flip that. But then how are you gonna see it?
Flip it. Turn it back the way you have it.
This way?
Yeah. No, but put it that way.
I'll just let you do it.
Okay, how do
I'm gonna
I
run to the back.
flip it? Okay.
No.
Watch yourself. This spot is too far away from their distribution. Fuller is just there. So is the one in Charleston. We are just out of there.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. For those of you who may have forgotten, my name is Harry Williams. I'm the mayor of the city of Hardyville. To my right are the members of the city council. Usually we have our nameplates. We have, I'll take from left to right, John Carroll, Steve Mearsman, our Mayor Pro Tem Bo White, and Mrs. Valerie Guzman. Our city attorney is here, Mrs. Prina Maines, and our city manager, Mr. Michael Zimbley. I'd also like to introduce someone who was not here the last time, the principal landowner of Okeechee Crossing, Mr. Doug Horn, who's sitting over there. You probably saw his Horn properties on many signs throughout Okeechee, so he has joined us today, so welcome. I will now call this meeting to order. This is a City of Hardyville City Council workshop, Hardyville Recreation Center, 285 John Smith Road, Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 at 2 p.m. This is a workshop. You can see we're casual, and what we typically do is the council just comes in with their questions and concerns, and we don't go in any order. Whoever wants to speak. In speaking with the council, we agreed that I would lead today. Normally the mayor, the chair of the council, goes last. I let everybody ask their questions first. But because we have submitted certain things and I have spoken to the council people about their concerns as well, to avoid duplication, I'll lead off with the comments and questions. Because this is a continuation of the last workshop, the public comment section has already been completed. If we get to the point where this doesn't get to be, midnight tonight, I will use my own discretion of whether or not we open up to the public again or whether we do for a limited amount of time. Hopefully, we'll be able to have some limited public comment as follow-ups today as well. Full disclosure. I have of your homes, including the entire circle of, take an extensive amount of time visiting the perimeter, going through the tree lines, not too far, but taking a look at where this site is and getting a good relationship to where the homes that are most affected by this. So, what we did since the last workshop, administration for the purposes of staff being able to prepare and again make this be efficient and concise today and get every question asked and answered. I submitted a list, and again, it's my list, and even though I'm going first, our council people have also weighed in. So they may not say something that, that they feel strongly about when they get up to talk, but in order to avoid duplication, they may not say it. But rest assured that every council member has expressed quite a bit of every question and concern they have. So I submitted, again for me, what is non-negotiable, what is negotiable, and what are further questions. And I'm going to go down that list of the development. This is what I said the last time. I've talked to would prefer to have a quality apartment complex at this spot instead of, let's say, a big box Home Depot with all that. And something will eventually go there. So I also want to say a lot of the input that I got and to the developers that a lot of people were impressed by the quality of the builder and the project. So we did receive a lot of compliments to what this project is. However, there are a number of issues, and we'll go down there. So just setting that stage, so we're here to get a good quality project that all of us as neighbors can get comfortable with. Will some of you be only 90% comfortable or 80%? Possibly, but again, as good neighbors, we all want to come away feeling that we work together to a positive outcome. So I'm going to go right into my non-negotiables. First question I have for staff. Or for the builder. The fourth floor, how many total units are planned for the fourth floor?
Yeah, across all of the buildings, we don't have an exact number. We've not done the schematic design. That is the next step we go to after public approval. We go to schematics, and that's where we lay out the units within the building. So it'd be premature for me to tell you a number. But if you just look at the math, it's probably 20% of the total units.
Or 100?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the reason I asked that, we have two other apartment complexes in the area that we have before us or approved last year. Noble Vines has, in 17.6 acres, they have 210 units. That's 12 apartment units per acre.
I'm fine.
There's another complex on 170 that we had a workshop on last week. That has 300 units in 23.4 or 23.6 acres. That's 12.5 acres, or units per acre. This project has 518 in just over 29 acres. That's 17.6. So my first non-negotiable, for me, when I say non-negotiable, if it stays, I vote no, regardless of what else comes up. You know, it's just me. It's just me. There is no precedent for any apartment building in Jasper County or the city of Hardyville that's 4 stories. I will not vote for 4 stories. Is that a condition way that you can live?
Yeah, I think to address a couple of things there that came up. One is from the zoning density. The PDD allows for 40 units per acre, and we're less than half of that. I think it's important to note. I think the other thing to note related to this. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, thanks. Is that, you know, in addition to, from a density standpoint, are we allowed to do it? Yes, from the ordinance. Also, from the ordinance, we're also allowed to do the 4 stories. I think it's important to note as we look at this depiction here, by doing the 4-story buildings and concentrating that to the center and to the southeast, away from the north and the west. I think this is the button. So these are the larger buildings here, down here. This is a 3-story building, and that's a 3-story building. And using the additional setbacks related to the detention ponds and the likes, and doing the perimeter with the 2-story carriage unit buildings, we actually increased that setback, and I've got a next slide, I'll show you that. But the point is, we've got to get a certain amount of density based on the cost of doing this to make it financially viable. Without doing 4-story buildings, it's not viable. I think it's important to note, what does that really look like when you talk about feet? So, not that one, this one does. We took the plan view here and said, okay, so from this house in this section here to this nearest building, that's 344 feet and change. From here to this building is 500, and we've got 400 here, 200 here, 200 here, and then this going all the way over here would be again 400, but here from the property line to here is 135. So, you know, the buffer initially was 15 feet prior to September 2021, and Horn Development agreed to extend that to 50 feet, which we are good with. We're not asking for a reduction there, but we have been sensitive and mindful to, related from a setback standpoint, to push the massings of these buildings more toward that center and the southeastern corner. But I think it's important to reiterate and note that from a development perspective, that one, we're within the ordinance to do so, and number two, by a restriction of that, then presents us with the dilemma of a project that is no longer financially viable.
Okay, so I'm going to go down the rest of them, but I'm voting no for this project. The next thing is, and I, please, if I sound flippant, it's just, I'm sorry. But, you know, we have there are two other projects right near you that are approved or in the process of being considered that are dealing with 12 per acre. I don't know the finances of the cost of that land or whatever it is, but I will not vote to set a precedent for 4 stories. I will vote no, as long as those 4 stories are part of it. Next, security fencing around all borders with Sun City. Residents have asked for 10-foot with different kinds of fences, but especially with the proximity of this.
So, from a fencing standpoint, we understand your request and we understand where you're coming from. We get that. And while we're not in agreement, it is our position that a well-planted buffer serves a better purpose, not only for us as neighbors to you, but you as neighbors to us, but also to the environment. But even so, we hear your concerns, and we are willing to build a wooden fence. I do need to point out that it would be from, on the northern border boundary, it would be from this corner up to this is a jurisdictional wetlands, and I don't know, you don't need to be an expert on this, but the point is, we really can't do anything in a jurisdictional wetlands or within the jurisdictional buffer. So that would go up into the point where we hit this buffer line here, and it would be the length of this. To give you an idea on the scale of this, this is well over 2,000 linear feet. From a cost standpoint, this is not a small undertaking. I think it's worth noting for the record that this is an unplanned expense, but one we are willing to make as good neighbors. We have in every project strived and have been able to accomplish being good neighbors to those around us, not only those adjacent to us, but the community at large. And in our effort to be good neighbors, we're willing to build that fence.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna throw it out here. I still have a major concern. If you go there, if you visit there, that lagoon is right up against the backyards of those people. And the tree line, if you look between those houses there, it's very thin. I don't see any prevention. If you go out to where the electrical easement is, you'll notice that vegetation is very thin. And for someone to come in behind there from the development, if I'm in that one of those people, I'm really concerned about access directly to their backyard. I'm not satisfied dropping that fence off. And if we have to get approval from the Army Corps of Engineers, I think that has to be more secure to that line of homes right behind there. And again, I'm only speaking for myself. I have 20% of the vote, but I'm not happy with that, cutting that fence off at that point. Next thing, 15 trees per acre, that's 450, planted, not saved. Again, in visiting the site, and you go in the back of these people's homes, no matter how much 200 feet or whatever feet there, the tree line is so visible. It's opaque. You can see right through there. Buffers between the backyards of the people there. Recently it's come up that it could be 15 trees that are not cut down. To me, that's unacceptable. it has to be 15 trees planted. Is that a problem?
So there's a couple of points to make here, and I understand and detail, just to put it in layman's terms, when we talk about canopy trees, understory evergreen, there are a lot of pine trees along the area, and we know that they're thin a good portion of the way up, and they kind of blossom at the top of the pine tree where they're getting the most light. It makes sense. But there are options for evergreens to plant in that area. Also, understory, those would be your smaller trees that don't grow quite as tall, that help fill in that gap. I can attest that I'm sure that our residents don't want to look in, and then related to shrubs, these are not your 1 and 2 foot tall. We did a project recently, and we spent on a per unit basis, this is a per unit basis, close to, it was a little over $1,800 per unit for landscaping. A typical multifamily project's gonna spend less than $1,000 per unit. Landscaping is crucial, and we take this serious. We want that buffer standpoint, but also from the 15 trees per acre. I'm sure we're gonna do well in excess of that to get the look that we want, but at minimum, we will comply with the ordinance.
Margaritas, you know, one time. Is that a problem?
So first of all, if we were having margaritas, y'all would want to come join us, I'm sure. And if you didn't, then I would really think something about you. So what I'd like to do is to point out, I'm going to go back to this slide first just to point out. So the rooftop terrace location is in, oops, wrong one. This building here. So the view you're going to be looking at is coming from this entrance through the gates, and you're looking at it from a easterly view looking west. And it's this section in the middle here of the building. Again, this building is 581 feet from here and well over 500 feet from over here, also being blocked by this building. So when we look at this, this is a elevation view looking at the building. And I had Hal, our trusty architect, thanks Hal for sketching this up for us in short order. This, I think a lot of people view, this is a rooftop, it's gonna be on a rooftop, on the very roof. And it's not, really it's recessed, it's actually on the 4th story and it's cut out. So to your north, which would be this side here, you have a whole length of that portion of the building there, plus the roof here, blocking anything to the north. Going toward the west, you have another building and the rooftop at this level, and then here's to the south here. So the rooftop terrace is actually not on the roof itself, but recessed. You know, this is a highly sought after amenity, and we refer to it as wow factors that allow us to help lease up this project and make it viable. This is one we've done on numerous different projects with a huge amount of success.
Again, with the tree line, and the reason I have this in this category, I'm not so much concerned about the people who live there. I'm concerned about the people who live and gonna watch them having a party on the rooftop. And with the height of this, that's my concern. So, now, next, the buffer. Believe me, I'm a businessman. I understand the cost. I would think that from the property line, regardless of what's there, would it or not, we need a couple hundred feet away from the property line. It does not have, you'll lose some money. I fully understand. By putting some distance between the two property lines. but that gives you a chance to do the fencing. It gets you away from that wetlands where you said you couldn't put the fence. Move it out. Lose a couple of acres of sale. Move it out, move it away from Sun City. That's an important issue with me. Here's some of the things that, you know, I've heard from residents and I'm really concerned about. If you go down Argent Boulevard, the Aberley Chase, which is a 500-600 apartments, there's a couple things that stand out. Number one, there's a fence all around that, in spite of the fact that it's entirely wooded. It's not a great security fence, but it is a fence. And there's nothing on but woods on the other side of that. So the fencing around apartments does have some precedent. Also, it's only 3 stories, and it's really high. 3 stories is really high. But also, all the condensers and air conditioning units are on the ground, surrounded by some either plants or a fence, the decorative. I'm really concerned. I'm not happy about putting the condensers on the rooftop. Again, all for the same reason. The folks that live along those, the back of those, can look up and see it because the tree line is not sufficient to block it. So that's a negotiable, but one I feel very strong about. Can you address that?
Mayor, I fully understand some of your concerns here with regards to this buffer. I think this particular slide represents that you are getting greater than the 50 feet because you can see the distances here. But also, and hey, Brina, I was gonna, go ahead. I was gonna ask this question, but I think there needs to be some context here, and I think the staff, and you can help answer this, and the mayor, but I was looking back last night in a hotel, and I was going through a bunch of, you know, this presentation, we had it set up different than how it's going now, this is fine, but I have emails that, you know, are dated basically in November and December of 2020, and it's starting the process with Michael, Katie, and Brina, and Prina, with regards to amending the PDD, this development agreement that we're in. So again, November of 2020, this amendment was approved and signed on in September of 2021. So it took us 10 months to get through this amendment. I have at least 10 red lines between my attorney, Christina Meyer, who's not here today, and Prina, and it's back and forth on all these details. Just to give you a very simple analogy here, initially it was a 15-foot buffer that we were to abide by. That was agreed to in the prior development agreement. It was 15 feet. So we come in and we ask for some additional acreage because we have a large retail tenant that is wanting to come on our property. But this tenant requires a lot of capital and a lot of expenses. So what do Doug Horn and myself do? We think of ways, okay, we gotta sell some lots, that'll help fund this road, and in return, get this tenant. The entire reason why we went before this city to amend the PDD in September of 2021. So we took a 15-foot buffer, the city asked for 50. We came back and said, how about 25? No. How about 30? No. How about 35? No. So we agreed to 50. That was adopted. It was agreed to. I know there's 2 new members on this council. That was agreed to by this council, by the mayor, by the staff. Check, we're done. So now we go out, and what do? I market this property to probably 25 different prospective multifamily tenants. This process took me at least 90 days. I had several applications. Doug and I sat through in our meetings, and we sat there on the desk and we looked through all these different developers. I had developers out of Indianapolis, Miami, Nashville, Charlotte, all of them. We wind up with Wade. Why is that? Sun City planted there's a tree line direct, right? And I know, and listen, I'm not trying to be, I hope that doesn't come across as being arrogant or rude, and I apologize if it does. That's not the intent. I'm simply stating, if you look at this area, the developer who built this development, look what he did over here against Moore's property. Let's push him up here. I've got to maximize this property. I got to get as many units as I can. Okay? I understand that. But now, we're not trying to maximize our property. I've got 20 acres of open space. 20. Now, if I didn't have that, I would take the minimum and I would put in here 5- and 6-story buildings because that's what we're allowed to do. But we're not doing that. We're trying to be sensitive. We didn't plant these trees.
You took a lot of trees down though.
No, sir, listen, and I understand, there was someone came in here last week and said that we went in there and clear cutted everything. No, we didn't. There was not one chainsaw that was brought onto that property. We knew that Wade had to go in and survey a 30-acre property. 30 acres. How do they do that? They take their small little four-wheelers, I call them four-wheelers, and they run it a boundary, which is so critical. 1 foot up a little bit, okay? So how important is that? It's very important. So we took a gyro track, obviously I wasn't on it, but I was here when he was doing it, and I walked the property with my environmental consultant. He came out there and cut all the underbrush. Not one chainsaw was brought out that day. Not one. Not one tree was chopped down. There's no stumps on that property right now. You can't find one stump because we've got these buffers. We're not pushing these buildings up here. A lot of trees back here either. So I'm not trying to be arrogant, decisive. I'm just pointing out the simple facts here. So a lot of this, I thought, negotiating back and forth. Then Karina would send it to me. I go to my attorney, I go to Butler. He's regional, he's local, he's from Charleston. He does high end. If Wade doesn't do this, the alternative is probably a cheaper rent. Quite frankly, let's be honest. And like I said to you all last time, the ones that you were here, I had plenty of developers. They read the PDD. When we sent out the package, the PDD was a part of the package. They had all the guidelines of how they could develop this property. And each one of them read it. And they said, well, what about this open space? Golly, that's beats almost every single one of those. How is that not? Some of these slides we have, again, you don't want a rooftop terrace. Well, before, I assumed when that was brought up, everybody thought there was going to be a terrace all over this place. Here's our center point. It's this building right here, which is blocked by this, and then blocked by all this. Yeah, you want to have breakfast, you want to get a cup of coffee, you go down to the coffee shop, you go up on the terrace and drink coffee. There's not a your prerogative, but you probably won't, and let's be honest, these people, the minimum area required per this code is 6 acres. 5.99 acres, oh gosh, excuse me. 5.99 acres. Wait, you're at 14.64. 14.64. But yet we're being accused of trying to maximize. Is that fair? I don't think so. I applaud Wade, and I've been working with him hand in hand the amenities that he's providing, all these additional things, he didn't have to do. And 90% of the proposals I received and reviewed didn't have any of that. So I apologize for getting long-winded. I think that these needed to be mentioned, so.
Thank you, Michael. And as I will restate, this is about coming up with a project that everybody can live with. That
We have a mail carrier that has to deliver mail. And guess what, with Amazon and then everybody else doing stuff online, we have a lot of parcel deliveries come. We have parcel rooms in the building, as well, where they can pick up their parcels. I think the other thing to note is that a project of this size, we would typically have 2 to 3 courtesy officers. What does that mean? Those are full-time law enforcement, our sheriff, they live on our property, they drive their marked car, they park their marked car there, serves as a deterrent from anyone, but they are also our first go-to people in the event of anything that goes on the property short of requiring what would be a 911 call. So their presence there is crucial. Again, this is
I'm going to defer that topic. We talked about BJWSA. People are not understanding we're going to have all these homes, not just here, but other places. And yet at the same time, BJWSA is telling us that it's going to work. So I'm going to answer that one for the application. We had a presentation at our council meeting last Thursday from the CEO of BJWSA. First of all, the simple answer is right now, the BJWSA, according to what we're giving us, they can accommodate 39 million gallons per day. They peak at best 34 million gallons a day. And by 2025, they will be able to raise that capacity to another 15 million or to 54 million gallons per day. So the short answer is BJWSA is raising its capacity to accommodate these new developments. In the morning, when everybody's ordering everybody to regulate and alternate their work. I'm not here to debate it, I'm just passing on information. Traffic. In the petition, you asked for a workshop. There are a lot of traffic things being done in the area, including a proposed loop road in Okatee Crossing. And I think that's an issue that has a lot of multiple phases going on between Beaufort, Jasper counties, and the city of Hardeeville, and the local metropolitan planning organization that handles traffic studies and traffic mitigation. So I think what we should do as a council, honor that request, have a workshop, and we'll lay out the corridor access plan and the plan for what's known as the triangle. The triangle goes from Argent Boulevard down 170 to 278, 278 to Argent Boulevard and back up to 170. That's the triangle, and as well as the corridor access plan at 170. So that, I think, will answer a lot of questions about traffic. It may not satisfy everybody, but it'll answer the questions. We'll do that separately. Of having a light there where the loop road will. So that is my list. What I want to do now is to open it up to the rest of the council. Because of the stormwater issue, I'm going to ask Mrs. Guzman to take over from here on that issue. And then what I'll open it up, a typical workshop, council, whoever wants to, just raise your hand and we'll come up and get everybody's question. But again, I just want to tell, if another member of council doesn't say anything, it's because they're aware of what I just went over, and it covers their concerns as well. So, don't think that everybody's got to get up and say something. The reason we did this order is so that we eliminate duplication and be respectful of everybody's time.
One of the non-negotiables for me in this project will be the stormwater. To visit Sun City and drive around and see how this could affect your residences. So I'm just gonna read what I have, what's bugging me, and then y'all can address it after the fact, okay? So during my visit to Sun City, I saw where all of this development stormwater will drop into, and that is in the lagoon that's in front of the Glen Eagle homes, I believe. What worries me is the flooding during an extended spell of heavy rain, and that has the potential for that lagoon to overflow with potential flooding of those homes. There will be zero accountability for the flooding caused by this. The verbal assurances given that the flow will be controlled into Sun City by the developer of these apartments does not give me confidence. The Sun City Lagoon will be under the control of someone else, unaffiliated with the welfare of Sun City. Sun City residents will have no legal recourse. Also, who would be responsible to control the growth of algae in the storm water? We have an issue with the blue-green algae in this area, especially in the summer months. And this promotes the growth of a bacteria called cyanobacteria, which is very toxic to humans, animals, fish in the water, and don't include lawn and garden pesticides. People washing their cars. 8-inch stone pipe, assuming appropriate approvals can be obtained from the city and Sun City POA to connect to the pipe end. This outfall location allows for a lower pond level. So, whose pond level are you concerned about? The pond level in the apartment complex or the pond level in Sun City? According to this master plan.
It allows for lower pond level.
And, okay, let's say, for example, if all this goes well in your lagoon, is there something underneath?
Yes, ma'am. Should I stand up to answer that?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. To answer your question, and I had a sketch of our pipes, and they're designed such that all these ponds rise and fall together. So they don't all rise and fall at different stages from one another. It's just like if you have 4 bowls and you connected them with large enough pipes, as you pour water in one of them, they all kind of come up together, they all kind of go back down together. So that's how they're designed to work, and that's how Thomas and Hutton designed these to work. And in their calculations for that report for Block 17A and 17B Sun City, they included and allowed for and designed for and intended for the 50 acres upstream to pass through that lagoon system. Their model of that lagoon system and the way they sized all those pipes accommodated that, because they would have otherwise been blocking off the flow from upstream, which is illegal according to the part of the ordinance. So they had to accommodate it to pass through. And so therefore, that is the way the drainage goes. But the restriction is that any development upstream has to restrict that rate to what it was previously or what it is today. In other words, it can be no more than what it is today in its wooded condition. So that's why on the site upstream, and this is true for any property in Hardyville, but whatever the size of that controls how much flow can go out.
The apartment, whoever owns the apartments, they control the flow, and the people in Sun City will not have any say in how that is done.
Well, not completely true in that the city has a say over how much can be discharged. It can only be equal to or less than
And who
today.
monitors that? Who will monitor that?
It's a city report. The design is submitted to the city will be reviewed by the city's engineering representative, and it must meet a minimum.
Right now, Sun City, I'm saying this, right now, Sun City is monitoring the gate that flows the water out to Oakley Creek. It's not free. It
Excuse
costs
me,
us
David.
money.
Excuse me. This is not a public session. There's gonna be one questioner and one answer. And then when it's public comment
Let's
section,
get the information right then.
just, you'll have a chance at public comment to ask your question. This is not that time.
Yeah, yeah, you can, because I have one more issue, one more thing. Okay, so, it's just an observation here, this thing still does not sit very well with me, because I'm still very concerned about the excess water that's gonna come into your ponds. No matter what study has been done, I believe that was done, what, in 2008? How recent is that?
Yeah, 2014.
Okay, and those pipes are made out of?
Concrete.
Concrete, so concrete still deteriorates, correct?
Well, I mean,
Rigid concrete pipe, that's what our.
everything within the city is designed in concrete. So I guess if you said one thing were to fail, you could probably assume that the concrete pipe out here will eventually fail. But, so that, I'm not sure that, I wanted to show you one thing though, Ms. Guzman, that's important. So, let me get my arrow here. Obviously, here's our property. When Del Webb built this phase of their development, South Carolina DHEC and the OCRM looked at this entire project, not only this piece, but upstream here as well. And they said, okay, if you build this, how does it affect this, and how does it affect this? Those are great questions. That's why that they asked that. So they said, we'll allow you to build this. It is literally 10 feet from our property. 10 feet. And this is important to realize. All these lagoons right here, our entire development will drain into these lagoons. And these lagoons are deep. They're not 2 feet, they're not a foot. These cars have been standing there for 30 days and somebody had a little oil leak in it. And over time they go to the bottom. The water up top, when it's at a certain level at the pond, it releases through that pipe at the pre-existing condition. So think about what I just said there. Think about what I just said. Not post-development, but pre-existing condition. So whatever the flow is of this property as it sits today, that's how it will release into Sun City, because that's how it was designed. Okay? Let me show you real quick. Here's the overview. This was taken in 2014. Del Webb post-development drainage exhibit, excuse me. Same thing. They accommodated for this. This has all been designed. DHEC has reviewed this. OCRM has reviewed this. Now granted, it's for this development, but it includes this runoff. 14th of June. Ms. Katie Wood, sitting over here in lagoons, is in the calculation. It's sized for the master storm drainage model. And that's why this works. This is all engineering. We don't, if the water runs off, it doesn't shoot over into Sun City. It goes in all those ponds. I mean, look at this. Look at the size of these things. They're enormous. They retain our stormwater. And when they get to a certain level, which is determined and engineered through our engineers and already approved, that rate's already approved, then it's slowly released at the pre-existing condition into this pipe. I'll go back again. That's about 10 feet away. Excuse me. Now you can see here too, the different elevation. This is much deeper than where these houses are. So that pipe, the water goes through that pipe, and then it just is
he said it releases out at the pre-existing condition. There's no way this floods. Look at all, go to an aerial and look at all the lagoons in Sun City. Do those lagoons flood ever? Do they get into houses? Of course not. Why? Because those plans were turned into DHEC, they were turned into OCRM, and they were designed by people who went to school and got civil engineering degrees just for stormwater. That's why this doesn't have to be complicated, and it sounds complicated. That's why, I told Wade and I were talking, oh, this stormwater, it's complicated. Let's break it down into the simplest terms. You have engineers that know what they're doing. Your staff knows what they're doing. The state agencies. Guys, this plan is approved by DHEC and OCRM. You have nothing to worry about here. That water's going through concrete structures that are underground, that exist today. That water's been going through there as long as that's been built. And I know it's complicated and it sounds scary, but I think it's Del Webb. So levels, and they have to approve it. There's so many layers to this. So many layers. Hopefully that, illustrates the amount of effort and time and really just engineering that has gone into the cabin store. It's like when you go out and build a residential house, I can assure you.
Okay, so, I don't have a degree in engineering, but I have common sense.
Oh, and I'm not, listen, I'm not, I don't have a degree in engineering either. That's why it is so complicated. But we do rely on people that do. Otherwise, look at all the lagoons in Sun City. We would have issues there.
Okay, so, continuing, it says here, this outfall location allows for a lower pond level and reduces the need for import fill material on the project site. Alternately, an off-site outfall ditch may be constructed to the east, connecting to the existing jurisdictional ditch between Noble Pines and Canfield Assisted Living. So that means if we say no to dumping the stormwater into Sun City, you already have two alternate methods to get rid of the stormwater, correct? Am I right? Because it's in your master plan, page 9, paragraph F.
That is an alternative route. I've begun to view it more as a supplemental route. It's less desirable. It's not where the water goes today. So it's not where the water goes today. That will take the water over to 170, to some culverts that go under Highway 170, which frankly, we're not sized for that, like how Sun City was sized for that. So what it would do, if that is the drainage discharge route for the project will, going back to Wade's point about financial viability, makes it much less viable because the pond will be higher, the fill will be higher, it will cost a lot more. You may not even be able to do the project if that has to be the outfall.
Okay,
Or the cost to get there.
okay.
The cost to get there.
And I just have another observation here, so from looking at all of this and hearing everybody chime in, to me, it seems like Sun City is taking all the risks. If this stormwater diversion is allowed to operate into their property. And as far as the other non-negotiables for me would be what Mr. Mayor said was the tree line, the number of stories, and also the security fencing. Those are also non-negotiables as far as I'm concerned.
Harry, I have just a point of order. Can they spell out the acronyms that they keep spelling out? Please. I skipped that too.
Okay, so we'll make sure at least once to
Once.
spell out the- Council, who wants to go next? Steve? Come up.
That I can do. That I can do. Usually I speak loud and clear. This development was planned way before I came on the city council. The original PDD was way before I even moved down here to the Low Country, probably like most all of us. So here's where we start and where I start. Wade, I think you got an excellent product. I really think that you have a first-class product. I'm hoping we can make it work with what we have here. But the fencing, I would like to see that fence extended all the way to the end of the development. And I would also like to see some type of fencing provided by either you or Horn to cover the utility easement that runs through Sun City. It's wide open, it's like a highway. I think that's something that could be considered. I like a vinyl fence more than a wooden fence. It's a little nicer to look at, less maintenance down the road. And right now, with the cost of lumber, comparable is, cost-wise, is probably pretty close. Multiple access points. We have our fire marshal here. Now, I'm gonna put you on the spot, yes. In a discussion the other day with another apartment complex, we were told we had to have 2 access points. This project does have 2 access points, but it only has 1 access point as built for onto 170, correct?
We haven't got into that review of it at this point yet.
Okay, I would feel more comfortable if I had a timeline of when the loop road within this total project would be done. I'd like to see for irrigation, because of the presentation that we heard last week on Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer, that you all might consider wells for irrigation in the property instead of using water. It could be a long-term cost savings to you. It's better for the community. Along with that, I would like to see possibly using some of your parking spaces into a permeable surface. That would take some of the load also off of the ponds and the drainage there. These are all just my thoughts, please. Rooftop quiet times, you address that. You would be having that. On-site management, you will have that. Please consider enlarging the buffer. We're at 50 feet, 200 feet. Can we work something out? I have to say this, Michael, Horn's profitability is not my responsibility. My responsibility is these folks here and everybody in Hartford. That's who I have to look out for when I talk about this development. I'm gonna talk about traffic. That's who I'm responsible to. I think this is a project that we may be able to work within. We're gonna have development one way or another. We just have to make the best part of it. And I think the Horn development is going to improve our community over the time that it comes. I'd just like to see this work, but we have to make it work as a community so it's workable for everybody. We all live here now. You all folks from Sun City, you border this property. You bought your homes knowing that it bordered this property. We have to be good neighbors. They need to be good neighbors.
I just have a couple brief comments. I have actually lived here for 22 years in Sun City. I came when I was 30, and so. And one of the things that I think is so important, some of which I didn't know as a homeowner and living out in the community, is when people make an investment, as Wade has done with this, there are certain criteria that they have that's part of their buying when they buy something. They're not putting the whole fate of their investment in the hands of the council. They're they're having it in the ordinance and the things that are built right into the property. And I think it's important to understand that what we're working on are things like use, location, density, building height, roadway and traffic, landscaping, parking, buffers, setbacks, preliminary stormwater plan, tree preservation, and open space. And those are the kinds of things that we can impact as a council, and you can, as folks that live here. What we can't do is tell them that they have the right or not the right to build. It's something they have when they buy land. And I didn't understand that before I got to council. I thought we were making all these decisions in addition to the list I just read. What I think, I haven't made my mind up yet, because I think there's more facts to get. But I think we have two good developers here that, to me, I use the phrase the Mercedes-Benz of the people that do this kind of work. There's a lot of people that I wouldn't want to work with. I had an investment when I lived in California in solarium buildings. And boy, I learned a lot about developers and people that do that work. Most of it was disappointing. I think we have quality residents, and you have a profile of which, you have a profile of what you're looking for, we do as residents. And so my view is I'm open, my mind's open. I think we have quality developers here. I think they're listening to us. I think that's encouraging. I think that we're getting very good impact from you, although someone was shaking their head at me when I was speaking. Never do get that. But anyway, that's my view, and I'm willing to share it with you.
Okay, Councilman Carroll has, a personal issue and he had to leave, but he shared with me, he didn't have the big issues, of course, with the 4 stories and the fencing and some of the other things that I led off with this afternoon. He supports, so he asked me to share that with you. So, what's next? Given the time, I'm going to open up to 15 minutes of public comment. Because we have another applicant and I want to be courteous of their time as well. And also, we have had public comment before, but there might be additional information that you may have comment on or questions about. What happens after that? We have scheduled the first reading. There's 2 votes required. The first reading will be February 2nd, and if that passes, the second reading and final reading will be March 2nd. Whether or not the council votes for this will be dependent on what is modified based on the comments and questions offered here today. So I got 15 minutes. Whoever wants to ask the question, make a comment, please form a line, and we're going to have to come up here so it gets recorded and everybody hears it. And please, everyone, state your name and address for the record. Please come up here.
I'm Tom Clark, 51 Misty Point Drive. The question I asked when I came in today, are we going to finally see a drawing to scale? In your documents presented last time online, the square is a different size in multiple representations. Like that picture is bigger than the satellite picture. So what is the exact square?
You say the square, how many square acres or?
Well, I want to know what houses are, can you go back to the setback?
Yeah. So the architect overlaid this onto here.
Is this to scale?
And Yeah, so he went and scaled this as close as possible, given the Google imagery as the base layer. These, right here from the survey standpoint, and the other presentation, I do have the actual meets and bounds survey and topo and tree save plan there. But this is roughly this area here with these few homes here affected here, and then these few here. The rest of this is pretty well set back.
That drawing over there takes up more houses.
Well-
It goes further down.
Yeah, so any case, I mean, we're getting as close as we can to on the scale. So, but we do overlay this on CAD and the survey, so this may be off slightly, but it's not off by much.
Okay, thank you.
I've been asked to show, we did take some drone imagery, so I've been asked to show that just now, and I'll be quick about it, so that, I know that I showed this last time, and this is also not exactly to scale because it was a kind of the best we could do with aerial imagery. It's hard to tell there, but, oh, we're not sharing this one. I'm looking at it.
All else we can call IT.
And your right hand, you're in from the bullpen.
Well, this is, I'm using this other. I have not, no, this whole thing's not showing up there. This is the whole.
The drone might have crashed.
Alright. There we go. Okay, so real quick. Sorry, now we're all looking at the same thing. Okay, so this is, imagery from the drone. This is down on the side of Oakview Crossings, down near 278. You see by Kings Creek, that entrance, you'll see the cleared area, so that's down there. Looking up towards Tidewatch is at the top here, and the power line easements over here. And then this is from within Sun City Development, and this is looking at Glen Eagle right here. These are the homes on Glen Eagle, and there's the power line easement, 170's up here. This is general view of the site overhead. Glen Eagle's over here, and you have Mystic Point right here, and then 278 is down here. You can see Oakview Pines off in the distance. And another view, just kind of zoomed out a little bit from there. And then I have just a quick, like a 20-second, just overview of this is the site. And you can see, again, Mystic Point over here, and Glen Eagle over here. So that's some of the imagery we have available today.
Is there a point where it goes on the drone image?
It's gonna be, it's kind of hard with a.
The houses that are on the corner of Glen Eagle,
Right.
there, what, oh,
It's not, that's why we were using the other imagery to review it in, this was more to see what the existing conditions are today. I can't really copy and paste the site plan onto here because it wouldn't be accurate. So that's why we had, and this is, again, this is a little bit off because it is aerial imagery we're working with and it's not to scale.
You can't superimpose, but it does give you, we wanted to give you an idea of the topography, what the existing foliage is there, and the trees, you know, just give you some idea.
Yep. So,
Okay, David?
I want to bring up again
please state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Rosenblum. I live on Knollwood in, obviously, Sun City. I'm concerned. A lot of this stuff was discussed well before the north side of Sun City was built. A lot of the land that we see here now, when I moved in 2013, 2014, was still trees. It was announced after we moved in that there was gonna be an additional area developed. So what was discussed back in the early 2010s and today is totally different in our minds as residents. I'm very concerned about is that we've been hearing over the course of the into Oakety Creek, and that Sun City controls the gate at Oakety Creek, and they pay money to keep that gate controlled. Why should we, as residents, have to pay for fluid running into our lagoons and through our pipes? It just does not compute with me. And there's a lot more buildings in that area, we see a map, that are going to happen, which means more water is going to be pushed towards our lagoons or drainage ditches, whatever you want to call them. The bottom line is, we as people in Sun City do not want to pay for other people's problems.
Yes. I'm Jeff Conrady, 191 Mystic Point Drive. I want to thank the mayor and the council and all you guys for a good presentation. For everybody's information, this is about 50 feet here. So when we're looking at a buffer, it's about this distance. Just a quick question for Mr. Horn, the landowner. Is the parcel south of the apartment complex that's zoned commercial, is it sold, pending, or still for sale? And whatever its status is, will the land be clear cut at the same time that you're going to be building the apartments?
That hopefully will fall into place.
Right.
But as of right now, if we sold to, if this deal goes through, we're not touching any trees to the south. I mean, we do, there's a field at the very southern part of that property that we bush hog and mow. That operation will continue, but no other, forestry management type stuff. And usually when we do our forestry management, it's because we have to survey, and the surveyor says, hey, look, we've got all this debris here, I need it clean. And that's what we did up on the northwest quadrant.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? I'd like to give the floor to Councilman Mearsman.
I had asked earlier, and we've discussed the fencing. I just want to make it clear, any further development on the Horn property, I will request the fencing to continue.
Yes.
To surround, as it would possibly move to the south, if it would move further to the east across there. From the developer, if I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing is the lowest elevation of your buildings will be bordering the property closest to Sun City. Is that what I'm seeing?
The town.
The town,
Yes, which are the
carriage
smallest.
homes.
which are the carriage homes.
Yeah.
The highest elevation buildings will be basically furthest from.
Central and eastern.
Central
That was by
and eastern.
design.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You had shown previously, we had seen previously before, an angle of delineation from rooftop to ground. But it didn't show anything really more to scale, it's just a blank scale. Sometime I would like to be able to see that. Seeing as how your buildings now, it's a little better of an understanding for me, the height of the buildings, are more further away from the residential areas, what that would be. When I looked at the property the other day, I'm walking around the outside, I walked the berm behind some of y'all's houses, I walked into where the utility easement is. And it's very hard for me to understand that elevation at that. I'm looking up across the trees or a cleared area, I can't see what I'm really looking at. I'm visual, I need to see something that would give me that. But I am very adamant about the fencing. That is a requirement that I cannot live with. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
May I ask?
All right, oh, sure. The 15 minutes are close.
Looking at this map, which is better than what we've seen, and you're going from, if I go from bottom left around the corner and over, I'm going from Mystic to Tidewatch to Glen Eagle. Those three buildings that are tucked right along Mystic and Tidewatch, are those the 3-story or the 4-story buildings?
I don't know which one you're
They're
talking
2 stories.
Yeah, 2 stories.
The garage underneath?
Yes.
2 stories total.
So what, we're just trying to figure out which ones are the 2s, 3s, and 4s. So there are 3 here that are tucked closest to most of the houses. And then, the other ones are down here. So buildings 6, 7, 5, 6, and 7.
There's nothing on the perimeter that's higher than 2.
And
here.
5, 6, and 7 are from here.
This is 3. This is, that's 3.
So 2 and 6 are supposed to.
They're here and here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, this concludes this portion of our workshop today. Again, the next meeting will be February 2nd. It will be the first reading of an ordinance. Depending on how that ordinance is structured, based on some of the quote non-negotiables and negotiables, and will determine whether or not this council votes for it. So I believe, thank you for listening. If the modify it or don't modify it, at your own risk. So thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. And again, I will say, you know, it's a quality project, and we'll deal with it on February 2nd.
Mr. Mayor, may we have a 5-minute?
Yes. The next item, council's taking a 5-minute break. That'll give a chance for everybody who wants to leave, and those who want to stay.
There's the producer. How are you doing?
Good,
Good to see you.
You as well.
Going well?
Keeping me busy.
You have good holidays and all that good stuff? Get some time off? Get some time off? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about kind of school. Or you're talking about what what it is. What it does is you get tax revenue, you got Dale Rubble on the right, and Rubble on the left, you can use Rubble, it goes pretty deep out there. I mean, well, if you get what, you're actually right. Correct. On the left-hand side. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I got 700. Yeah, I got about 700. I got the only person that's really authorized to go with the tax out there. I told him I let him watch
How do I stop it? Oh, right there.
Yeah.